Hi everybody, and welcome to What's Next After Practice. This is an event within Coopman. It's a part of our careers path with Coopman series. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Mark Fallon. I'm a director and co-founder here with Coopman Search and Selection. We've an excellent event in store for you today. I just want to quickly share to you as why we're actually all here. So I suppose over the last number of weeks, we've been speaking to a number of newly qualified accountants in the Irish market, and we noticed that a lot of questions have been appearing. What type of roles do they want? What type of audit should they do? Should they look at financial reporting? Should they look at financial analysis? What sector do I look at? So I suppose we decided to do a webinar on the back of this, just so we can actually support our market, because again, Coopman is a business that we specialize within, qualified accountants. We do finance, risk, and front office as well. But for today's purpose, we really want to support, I suppose, newly qualified market within financial services. Just to introduce the team then. So I suppose myself, like I said, I'm a director and co-founder here. I covered more senior end of the market. So I deal with more, C-level suite hires or senior finance professionals. The next person I'd like to introduce is Christine Jones. She's a senior consultant on the desk here as well. So she recruits for qualified accountants within financial services. So any role from newly qualified accountant up to finance manager or financial controller. Secondly, we've got Paddy Carney. So Paddy is a consultant here on the business also. So Paddy specializes within corporate services and professional services here in Ireland. And then lastly, we have Colin Finnerty joining us. He mirrors Christine on the qualified accountants desk across financial services again. And again, these guys would recruit for, aircraft leasing, insurance, asset and wealth management, banks, etc., etc. So today's event, like I said, is designed to support newly qualified accountants. So some questions you'd have, just to give you more clarity into what we're seeing in the market, and it might help you to make your next step and give you some more clarity, as I said. So Christine, if is that all right, we might start with yourself. I suppose the focus and I suppose 90% of the roles that we see are within financial accounting and financial reporting. So my first question really is what is the role of a financial accountant or financial reporting, and what exactly does that entail?
Yeah, of course. As you said, the typical route to go down for financial accountants, for newly qualified accountants, is going down financial accounting or financial reporting. That is typically just because it is the most common role on the market. So when you complete your practice and get that audit experience, you have an excellent overview of financial statements, but getting that accounts preparation experience is an important foundation to help you to progress in your career. So typically financial accountants are responsible for keeping track of a company's financial activities. So looking at the debits, credits, profit and loss, balance sheet preparation, monthly management accounts, preparing financial statements, and cash management and reconciliation, tax returns, as well as liaising with external auditors. Similarly, you have financial reporting. So for our financial reporting accountants, they are responsible for the preparation of financial statements for external reporting. So they would collect and analyze financial data to ensure that it complies with the reporting regulations and guidelines. They would do this on a monthly, quarterly, and yearly basis, and also be responsible for the management reporting.
Okay, good stuff. And I suppose if anyone was coming out of practice, but it being a top 10 firm, what sort of standards, like reporting standards, would they need to have, I suppose, knowledge of?
Yeah, so it depends on sector. So if you have exposure to IFRS 16 or IFRS 9, that would be quite relevant within aircraft leasing. Then with insurance, we'd be looking for candidates who have Solvency II experience or IFRS 17, which launched earlier this year. Outside of that, we'd be looking at anyone who has IFRS, FRS 101, 102, US GAAP, or any local GAAP that might be specific to the role.
Okay, brilliant. Thanks very much for that. Colin, if we move on to you next, I suppose in complete contrast to, I suppose, financial reporting, we're seeing the need for a number of, internal auditors within the Irish market, especially within financial services. I suppose, can you tell the audience here today, what would the benefits be and the advantages of someone actually moving into an internal audit function?
Yeah, so we've seen a big influx in roles in the last 6 months. Again, internal audit, something that many people shy away from. Anyone coming from a top 10 accountancy firm, probably audit maybe scares them off of, the heavy workloads and difficult deadlines they would have had through their practice period. Again, internal audit offers something completely different. It's an overview of the business from operational to financial. Again, you could be auditing something like, KPIs, financial statements, staff location. There's lots of different audits that happen internally. And again, each different company will have different internal audits that they will carry out each year. I suppose the difference in the influx is maybe down to, CBI or ECB regulations, and that's where these roles are in requirements. I think the regulated backgrounds, they obviously have pretty serious deadlines and they get pretty serious fines if they don't meet those deadlines. But again, it could open different avenues around financial accounting, financial analyst, business partner, FP&A, and that's the advantage of that internal audit exposure. With obviously the smaller teams that a lot of internal audit, companies have an internal audit, we see, C-levels exposure or heads of. So again, you're getting a lot of stakeholder experience that you wouldn't have maybe in a financial accounting role.
Okay, cool. So, and that's something that a lot of people don't realize, that, I think sometimes, newly qualified accountants feel that when they go from an external audit role into another role, it's quite similar, but in actual fact, it's very, very, very different.
Yeah, and what we're seeing as well, a lot of the candidates coming out now are looking for work-life balance. Internal audit does offer that. And again, you're moving away from those heavy deadlines. So if you're looking for something that gives like good structure, not monthly, monthly closing, quarter closing, year end, it is competitive in its salary as well. So again, the banks and insurance and companies that we're dealing with, again, they have large group functions that are growing out continuously and they're looking for internal auditors. Yeah,
brilliant. Okay, thanks for that. And I suppose similar to like a business partnering role, you're seeing lots of similar to internal audit, you're seeing lots of similar functions within an institution, whether it be an insurance company, an aircraft leasing company, whatever the case may be. Now, we're seeing a lot of finance business partnering roles in the market. Can you explain to the audience exactly what a finance business partner does?
Yeah, so first off, they do start at junior level, working right up to senior. So it's not something that, you need to have lots of account preparation experience of. I'm sure maybe some companies do require that. But again, strong audit experience may lead to opportunities in business partnering roles. Again, the business partnering job is a little bit different to internal audit, but very similar. You're looking at, process improvements, personal optimization. Again, you're working with, business heads of, and you're trying to improve and recommend, give recommendations back to the business that can improve and make real change within the business. You would be reporting to the likes of CFOs or very senior figures. So similar to internal audit, you will get exposure to senior figures. And again, it is a different avenue to go where you're not relied on for heavy reporting. We are seeing, I suppose, different job descriptions come onto the market now. Anyone with like FP&A experience or, the likes of Power BI seems to be very important. And it is obviously a technical thing that comes out of some people's audit experience, but not everyone's. So again, if somebody is looking to explore finance business partner, maybe look at, doing a Power BI course or something that would obviously give you more experience in that particular area.
Definitely. And again, it's another opportunity. It's another avenue for newly qualified accountants to go to. It's a very sought after role, but again, you kind of have to have that, that commercial mindset, have to be somewhat IT savvy as well. But absolutely brilliant. Thanks very much for that.
No problem. Thank you.
Paddy, you're obviously a specialist here within corporate services and professional services as well. I suppose it's a huge market here in Dublin and across Ireland for that matter. There's always a huge demand for qualified accountants at all levels in this space, really. So can you tell us the advantages of someone, again, coming out of the Big Four, they do like doing accounting, and what advantages would they be, if they did move into let's say a role within the corporate services space?
Sure. So to begin with, I'll just briefly touch on what exactly it is corporate service providers do. So corporate service providers provide outsourced solutions to their clients. So myself, working here on the accounting and finance desk with Coopman, I recruit qualified accountants for these companies. So these individuals will typically be responsible for a number of clients and essentially act as a financial controller for the clients, preparing and reviewing management accounts and financial statements. This depends on the individual corporate service provider, as some companies outsource the accounts preparation side of things to offshore teams, meaning that the individual might be operating in more of a review capacity rather than hands-on accounts preparation. The sectors of the companies that our clients provide solutions for include aircraft leasing, real estate, fintech, and pharma, to name a few. So to answer your question, Mark, one of the biggest advantages of coming out of practice and moving directly into a corporate service provider is the nature of the work. So corporate service providers allow somebody who's coming from an audit background the opportunity to get strong financial statement preparation experience, which Christine mentioned is key, coming from an audit background to progress in your career within accountancy and finance. And it also offers individuals the opportunity to do so while still working as part of a larger team and having a portfolio of clients, and that can just make the transition moving from practice to industry much smoother. So in terms of the market itself, there's constantly a huge demand for accountants, as you mentioned, ranging from the newly qualified level right up to 3 or 4 years post-qualification experience. And even above this, there are more senior positions as well, such as vice president, head of accounting, and director of client accounting. So the corporate services sector is known for having quite a high staff turnover rate when compared with some of the other sectors, but it's no surprise really that these individuals within the space are so highly sought after, given the level of exposure that they get from working in a corporate service provider with these clients. So the clients that I'm working with at the moment, they do offer excellent career progression pathways, and there's really good opportunities to establish an exciting career within the industry. So if anybody's interested in hearing more about that, I'd be more than happy to have a chat about the opportunities we have available at the moment and about the market in general. So please feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn.
Brilliant. Thanks for that, Paddy. And again, look, just to voice on that, anyone who does go and work within a corporate services provider, it's a great, I suppose, stepping stone if someone did want to ever get into an aircraft leasing sector.
Absolutely. It offers the opportunity for you to get exposure to working with multiple lessors, and a lot of the time, some of the people that I'd be working with who are currently in corporate service providers want to make that move into the aircraft leasing industry, and that's where Colin and Christine come in, and they can assist with that as well. There's also, of course, the opportunity to move to another corporate service provider in a more senior capacity. So yeah, look, it opens up a lot of doors, and as you said, it's a great stepping stone to get into the aircraft leasing side of things if you don't necessarily have financial services or direct aircraft leasing experience from your time in audit.
Stuff. Okay, brilliant. Thanks very much for that, Paddy. I suppose, look, obviously before we did this webinar, a lot of discussions when we do be speaking with I suppose newly qualified accountants is, I suppose the term that we're seeing this year more so than anything else is around, becoming a financial analyst. It seems like this is the buzzword, it happens every so often and everyone wants these roles. But I suppose, Christine, if I can come to you about this, maybe, within financial services, are they available? And I suppose maybe that's the second part of the question is, what is the role of a financial analyst as well?
Yeah, of course. So typically, as I said earlier, majority of the roles that are on the market are for financial accounting and financial reporting roles. For financial analyst roles, there's few and far between. For example, at the moment, we're currently working one financial analyst role with an insurer. Typically, what we would recommend to people who are interested in going into that area would be that they get that accounts preparation experience and make the move to a financial analyst position after 1 to 2 years post-qualification experience.
Exactly. So basically, it's kind of like a rite of passage to have to understand the fundamentals of a business first, and then ultimately, once they understand the accounts, they can simply then move in and analyze the numbers, essentially, right?
Exactly. So financial analysts, their role is to focus on the future performance of the business. So what they really need to do is understand the business and gain that accounts preparation experience so they understand, I guess, the whole aspect of the role. Yeah,
perfect, brilliant. And I suppose, I might just open this out to either three of you. What's the biggest challenges facing newly qualified accountants at the moment, or what do you think is, if you had any tips to give any newly qualified accountant, what would that be?
I would say take your time. I see a lot of people jumping at their first offer. Again, be smart in your move and thinking not just about the move you're making, but for future moves too. I think a lot of people follow money and not necessarily career progression. And if you're going to have 30 or 40 years in a career, your first move will shape your second move very quickly.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I agree with that. Get as much experience as possible. Keep as many doors open for yourself as possible. What you really don't want to do is pigeonhole yourself going forward.
Brilliant. And I suppose, would you have any tips then around, we've seen a lot of CVs that come through, and they're just not at the quality that they should be at. You know, would you have any tips for anyone who's coming out who's probably hasn't prepared a CV since probably their university days? Is there any tips that you give to the audience?
I think our experience so far, we've got to meet people, is there's a lot of nervous energy. I think that's mainly down to COVID, maybe the lack of client-facing experience, a lot of, video calls. I think with CVs, it's supposed to tell a story, and that's something we tell to all our candidates. And people generally undersell their experience coming out of practice. They think the 3 years are just the same, and I'm sure there's a lot of similarities in those 3 years. But again, imagine their internal promotions, which they are. You get promoted year on year into different roles, more seniority and exposure as you go on. Highlight those key experiences each year as you become more senior and gain more exposure and autonomy. It is important to tell that story, because again, I can see CVs been overlooked on a daily basis, that the quality is there, but it's not explained in their experience on paper.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, well, listen, thanks very much. Really appreciate, guys, your time and your insights to that. Just want to thank all the listeners for coming on today. It was really good to share our insights into the financial services market here in Dublin and in Ireland. We do, like I said, recruit for roles specific within financial services. So feel free to reach out to us here at Coopman at any time. We're happy to give you any I suppose advice around CV writing, any advice around career movements, and happy to help in any way. So thank you very much for your time, and have a good evening.